10 in the morning. Don't drive like me with your seatbelt off. And I am going to work a little bit early this morning. Part of my job is to go to different shelters and places like that, so we could basically find more people to help. Recruit more people. So that's what's happening. So right now I'm going to. I wanted to be able to talk to you guys a little bit. I haven't made a video that is just me in a while, just talking to you. Um, I'd like to do that a little bit more often. I haven't been discouraged lately from filming. Actually, I have a couple interviews that I've done already. Some people that I met at the shelters.
I spent half my life in prison, and I did that, and I remember every moment of it. And last year was like my honeymoon. I was free. I was able to do the things I wanted to do. So let me explain that. So I was released on February 20th. Today's February 17th. So my anniversary, it's almost like a new birthday, was is this Friday actually, and I think my brother Fen and my coworker are going to take me out to eat to celebrate, and then my family's going to come over the weekend. So that's very nice. My 15 years in prison was, and I'm not going to lie, it was an easier bit than other people's because I did have family support. I was able to go to commissary. I was able to buy like the tablet or music, things like that. So those little comforts help a lot compared to other people who don't have that same support, and it could really be hell on top of hell. I've been robbed, I've been sexually abused, I've been physically abused in relationships, and I had to learn. And for 15 years, for the first half of my incarceration, I was getting squeezed, I was getting squozed by gangbangers, because I was homosexual, because I was taken care of, very afraid. And I had people in my corner, and that was more mental fear than actual physical fear. Because the only time I ever had a fight, I won, and that set the tone. It's very easy to set a standard, you know, and nobody wants to be beat up by the trans, by the gay, by the that you can't come back from that. So it is what it is. My time in prison, I spent in relationships, cultivating who I am. I read a lot of self-help books. I did a lot to better myself. Year by year, one year went down, another year went down. It was what it was, and people talk about institutionalization, and I always tell people that it is real. And institutionalization is real and it's necessary, because when you're in there for a long time, you have to adjust. If you don't, you're going to have a very hard time, because you're always going to be fighting the system, fighting the way, the culture, the life, and you can't do that, because you're only going to be setting yourself up for failure, going to the hole, getting into fights, having arguments with the COs, and that follows you. So a certain level of institutionalization is necessary. And it's okay while you're in there, but when you get out, that's where, you're still, I tell people this all the time, when you leave prison, whoever you were in prison is who you are outside of prison at first. You can't help that. You left that same day, you're still that same person, and it takes time to purge that from your system. Okay? It takes time to let go of what you know. I'm now purging. I tell people all the time I have mental health issues right now that I'm dealing with. I do think about it a lot. It was part of my life. And I think, and I can picture going down the stairs to the microwave, waiting in line for the phone or the kiosk so we can send out our emails. I remember all of that, 100%. And I think about it often. and I thought something was wrong with me. You know, why am I? I don't miss it. I don't want to go back. So what is this? And what I've understood is, as I'm working through it, it's how you cope and deal. It's in your mind and in your heart. You have to confront that, and I am confronting that now. It's bittersweet. I say that because you have to relive certain things. You're going to think about certain things. There'll be certain struggles, but on the outside of that, look what I can do. I'm sitting here talking to you. It's almost like therapy. You know what I mean? It's real. It's raw. It's happening in the moment. This is something that I talk about all the time with my close family and friends. And finding the courage to talk about it here. I tried to talk to a friend of mine who was from prison, and he was like, "Oh no, I'm disappointed in you. It sounds like you want to go back and all this other crap." I said no, and I blocked him for that. But when I talk to my parole agent, when I talk to my therapist, when I talk to my family and certain friends, they understand. They understand, and that's such a good feeling. It's such a good feeling that somebody understands what I'm going through, even if it's not on the same level. My brother Fen, he has mental health issues in different ways. Not so much post-prison, but I feel as though Fen's mental health issues, the ones, not the ones stemming from childhood, but the ones that are coming up now, I think have to do with his transition back into a man. Fen was, for a very long time, Chazlee. And Chazlee was the persona that he created, when he wanted to be transgender as a woman. And going into prison, even after that phase kind of stopped, you go into that mode because that's how you're going to survive. So I can't imagine the mental anguish of having to do something you don't want to do, really. And now they're dealing with that. And they're doing a very good job, for real, whether they understand it or not. That's that. I'm there for them, 100%, just like they're there for me. But we're all dealing with certain things. And for me, coming out here, and I hate to use the word transgender, that's just me being honest. I'm Brazil. Just call me Brazil. Don't worry about pronouns or anything like that. That's like the last thing I care about. So for me, I'm doing everything that I know how to do. I'm doing everything that I can do to make myself exactly what I thought I could be. 25 was getting my feet wet and learning how to survive. And that's where Fen came in. They taught me how to take the bus. They taught me how to walk around the city. They taught me how to, to live. And I will always, always, always love them for that, because I was never from Detroit. I didn't know anything about going downtown, so having that, somebody there to actually help me every step of the way was you can't you can't fake that. You can't make that anything that other what it was. It's survival. And they helped me survive and helped me live my life, because I was at points where I thought about committing a crime to go back, because nothing was happening for me. Nothing was working. I didn't feel right or good, and I expressed that to family, and there was some concerning times. I never did anything to go back. It was a moment of weakness mentally, and I didn't let it rule my being or my thoughts, but I knew I had to conquer that. And then things started happening. My ID came, my license came, then there came a car and a job and everything like that, but it took a while. And those couple months before all that started falling through, it was rough. It was rough. Okay, so this must be that. So I think I'm here at Pope Francis Center. I'll figure it out. Oh, we're there. Okay, yeah, you're right. So, it's those types of things that those types of situations that I go through, and this year is about me, and that's okay. I'm allowed to have time for me, to understand me, and do what I need to do to get my life back in order, if that makes sense. To become everything that I knew I wanted to become, before. So that's what I'm doing. That's what 2026 means to me. Is now putting the pieces back in a organized, prioritized, intentional way. I hope that makes sense. But that's just my testimony right now. And I can't wait to see how things are going to change for me when Rel comes home. 6 months down the line, how my job is going to improve, how my mindset's going to improve. So sorry, I'm done with therapy, with post-incarceration therapy. At the end of April, early May, that'll have been 1 year, and that's another milestone. Next February I'll be done with parole altogether. Things are happening. Things are going good, and sometimes you need to just take a moment and be like, hey, I'm doing all right. I'm doing this, and not be afraid of that. So I gotta find out where I'm going. So let me stop here for a moment, and I will pick back up in a little bit. All right.
Real reactions, real conversations, real life vibes. Subscribe and join the vibe.